Hello, Y-Intercept here, and today I want to talk a bit about Chinese Pokemon cards. During the past few months, I've seen a rise in popularity of Chinese cards in the West. It all started with the Chinese New Year promo packs, the red envelope that contain a Chinese promo Pikachu, and that's actually where this Pikachu card is from. So on the left we have the English, in the middle we have the Chinese, and on the right we have the Japanese. So as I was saying, during February time, January time, we saw a surge of Chinese Pokemon cards in the West because of the Chinese New Year promo packs. And then over time, I've seen more online stores here in the UK start stocking Chinese booster boxes. And I'm being told the reason for this is because people who just cannot get their hands on the Japanese version, for example, Japanese EV Heroes, are turning to Chinese as an alternative to complete their collection. People can not be able to get the Japanese version for one reason or another. It could be too expensive, or it could just be too scarce. EV Heroes is really the prime example of just how scarce Japanese sets can be. But Chinese actually has an equivalent EV Heroes set, which is it's more readily available, but whether it's accessible to people in the West is a different story. But some shops have started to capitalize on it and import Chinese EV Heroes booster boxes. Nevertheless, today I want to talk a bit about just how the Chinese cards compare against the English and the Japanese equivalent. So first of all, I need to tell you guys that the Chinese and Japanese cards are actually printed in the same factory in Japan. So that means that the quality on the Chinese card and the Japanese card is actually the same. They use the same card stock and the same ink. So everything in terms of quality is actually the same, and that extends to the holos as well. So for example, I've got a Chinese holo here and I've got a Japanese holo here, and as you can see, it's got the same holo pattern, the vertical pattern during the Sword Shield era that we just don't have in English. So quality wise, Japanese and Chinese are the same, but design wise not 100%. We can see that they've both got the silver borders, which in my opinion is much better looking than the ugly yellow border in English. I know it's subjective, but I think yellow borders just look so much better. But the back is where it starts to differ. So Japanese modern cards, as we all know, have this beautiful multicolored back. And I say modern because during the WotC era, for example, the Lieutenant Surge's Pikachu actually has a different type of back, and this back hasn't been used or seen in a very long time. Chinese cards, on the other hand, do not have this nice multicolored back. They have the same back that we have in English, this back here. So let me flip this English card as well. There we go. So you can tell right off the bat that there is a slight difference in color, and that's just because they're printed in different factories. In terms of, I know colors can vary ever so slightly just between print runs, but in general, Chinese cards do actually tend to be slightly lighter on the back than the English equivalent. So here's another Chinese card here. This is another Chinese Pikachu, also from the New Year promo. And if I put it on top here, you can see that this is slightly darker than this. So in terms of consistency, Chinese backs do tend to be ever so slightly lighter than the English equivalent. Now, so let's talk a bit more about quality first of all. But let's carry on by talking about quality. So as I was saying that these are printed in the same factory, it means they use the same card stock. So if you've ever held a Japanese Pokemon card before, you will know that Japanese cards do tend to be a bit lighter and a bit thinner than English cards. They bend just a bit more easily compared to the English card, and that extends the same as well to the Chinese cards. Okay, so that's pretty much my quick rundown on the quality and design of Chinese Pokemon cards. So let's talk about whether you should buy Chinese Pokemon cards or not. So quite obviously, if you like the artwork and the design of Japanese cards and you are trying to fill out your binder with the nice artworks, then obviously yes, Chinese cards are a cheaper alternative, and they look very similar. In fact, for most people, if you couldn't read Chinese or Japanese, you may in fact mistake the Chinese card for the Japanese card, because obviously in the Japanese language they use Chinese characters as well. The only way you can tell, by the way, is because Chinese language just uses Chinese characters, obviously, and Chinese characters have more strokes than hiragana or katakana, which are some of the writing languages used in Japanese. So if you do like the design of Japanese cards, Chinese cards can be a good alternative to fill out your collection. But in terms of value, that's where I recommend no. Let's face it, the value of Chinese cards will never beat the Chinese value of Japanese cards, purely because the Japanese card is the OG. The Japanese sets are the original set that came out in Japan. Pokemon is a Japanese brand, and as a result, the Japanese version will always be just a bit more. Well, actually, no, I take that back. It's going to be significantly more valuable than the Chinese version, and it will be even the English version will be more valuable than the Chinese version, because we live in the Western world where people will value being able to read the English card more than the Japanese. So even if the Japanese card is worth more than the English, chances are the Chinese card will be worth less than the English, just because being able to read it trumps the quality and design of being similar to the Japanese card. Anyways, so that was my quick little video on Chinese Pokemon cards. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll probably do another video sooner or later comparing Korean cards as well once I get my hands on them. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.